Welcome back to another week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. I'm Drury, that's Clarkey, and we're very pleased to be joined by a great friend of the show. This guy might have the record. I think that this guy's been on our show more than any other guest, Clarkey. And when it's time to talk about baseball, we're approaching the All-Star break. Things are moving and shaking in Blue Jays land and in baseball in general. And hey, things are moving and shaking as well in the Canadian broadcasting world. And who better to talk about that than a man in the middle of it all, Mr. Rob Longley of the Toronto Sun. Longley, how are you, brother? It's good to have you back.
Good. I'm going to get one of my pet peeves out of the way right now, because you mentioned the All-Star break, and that's cool. You didn't do anything. But like in 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks, when the All-Star break is over, everyone is going to talk about how the second half of the season is starting. That's not true. The second half of the season is going to start Saturday when the Jays play their 82nd game of the year. Right. Not when they play their 95th game of the year after the All-Star break. End of rant.
And can we get rid of the All-Star games in all sports? Can we just actually baseball?
I like one of the best. Baseball's fine
because it's such an individual sport. Guys can try their best.
Yeah, I'm fine with baseball. I mean, obviously, football could be the worst. Hockey has become an embarrassment. The NBA is an embarrassment.
Yeah, baseball, all the other ones are embarrassing.
Yeah, baseball, grudgingly, I would admit that MLB's done it right. The home run derby's been a massive success, and it's great fun. I think I've been to 3 or 4 of them, and like you guys said, right? I mean, it's an individual sport. It's pitcher on hitter. It's somewhat legit as far as all-star games go, I guess.
And you got Pete Rose, barreling over the catcher in an all-star game and everything else. Is Pete in the Hall of Fame?
Well, he's eligible to. He's now eligible to go in.
You think he'll get in?
Hard to say. Like, I get a vote next year, so if you want to bet on it, I could sort of get in keeping with Pete Rose. You pay me off, I'll vote for Pete Rose.
Oh boy,
cash a ticket.
That opens up a whole new can of worms. Ryan, I want to say Ryan looks awfully clear tonight too, doesn't he? He's got a new camera, and it's unbelievable.
New camera, who dis, right? Like
exactly.
Lighting is on point too.
Yeah, everything's good.
Everything is good.
Look, guys, this show, it's a business expense. We're writing it all off.
Exactly.
That's
camera.
Right. Sean Cottrell,
we're not making any money on the show, so we better write stuff off.
We are. Don't worry, brother. Now listen. Longley, there's lots to talk about, and we want to talk about the Jays, and it's been it's been mostly up. It's been mostly up. I can't believe it as we record this. 2.5 games out of first place. Like, oh my God, the Yankees are free falling. It's unbelievable. But before we dig into baseball, I want to touch on an article you recently wrote, and it has to do with Hockey Night in Canada. Now, hockey's over for the year. The draft coming up this week. It's going to be a big deal. Your article pointed out a number of things about Hockey Night in Canada and the broadcast these days, and you offered up some pointers, some things that they could potentially improve on. Tell us a little bit about what brought the piece on and what you've observed in recent years from Canada's really flagship sports program.
It's this is going full circle for Clarkey and I. Clarkey will remember when we first got to know each other.
That's right.
We're talking back in like the mid '90s.
Yeah.
I wrote a regular column for the Toronto Sun called Airwaves.
Yep.
And
I mentioned that to Ryan this week.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then
howdy Hogan here.
It's the yes, that's right. It's the return of Airwaves, and it's
I love it.
A couple of my editors have been talking about it, saying we really need this because nobody in the country does it anymore.
Right.
Three of us in Toronto did it. Chris Zelkovich at the Toronto Star, Bill Houston at the Globe and Mail, and myself at the Sun. And I think it was very well read at the time. I used to think that maybe just people in the industry read it.
It certainly was in the industry.
Yeah. But I'm finding out now that just like I think I've done 6 of them over the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's not just people in the industry, man. The page views I'm getting on some of these stories are like pretty high. Like people just love to hear, they love to vent about what they see on television, right?
Yeah.
And they love to read other people's opinions about it. And back to your point, Ryan, the obvious time to sort of start it, my editors thought was during the Stanley Cup playoffs, and over time, just watching casually, and maybe not with such a critical eye as I do when I write a column on it. I think I'm of the opinion that there's been a long, steady, kind of tragic demise of Hockey Night in Canada. And the piece you reference, I tried to outline that. I played I had a little bit of fun with bastardizing, as I worded it, Elliot Friedman's 32 faults or 32 thoughts, and I had my 15 faults, and it was pretty easy to get to 15. I think I think the program lacks identity now, and I think it's and Clarkey, I'd love to hear your opinion on it too, because you're a guy who works in the industry. And it just doesn't seem to be. I guess the best way I could describe Hockey Night in Canada is it's lesser than the sum of its parts, because there are a lot of talented people on the air there, and there's a lot of Ron MacLean detractors, but he still should be able to be one of the better broadcasters in this country, given his reputation and his persona. But I just think that they've lost their way, and it's basically happened over the past decade or so.
Well, I think there's too many people involved.
100%.
There's just there's a panel here and people over here, and it like when Ryan came over the other day to watch the hockey game, we watched it on TNT. I think it was TNT, and it was. I thought they had a very good panel on TNT, and it's just too bad that back in the day, as well as I do, it was never a contest between a U.S. broadcaster and a Canadian broadcaster. The Canadians were always better, but now it's certainly, I think, swung the other way. I think they do a lot of good things. There's no doubt about it. But my biggest thing is too many people. And I feel for guys like Brian Spear, who's a good friend of mine, and producing that show, like at least the intermissions and pregame shows, there's a lot of people to get involved, and that's a very hard thing to do for a producer.
For the prior to the column that you guys mentioned, I did write one about the best way to fix Hockey Night in Canada would be to give us more Kevin Bieksa, because I think he has the potential to be a star. But the larger point is exactly what you just mentioned, Clarkey, because every intermission started from, it would be like Ron MacLean had to go to Kelly Rudy, had to go to Jennifer Botterill, they had to go to then to Bieksa, then they had to go down to Elliot and David Amber, and if they had somebody else, then they just go like through the line, like it'd be like, I mean, it was just way too many voices, and it was almost, it became scripted. I think properly produced, and I don't mean this as a shot at Spearsy, because he's one of the best, as you know. Yeah. I would suggest to you that the guy who's really producing the show is also the host.
Yep. No doubt.
Has a lot of say in the way things are
100%
on air. But yeah, I think if you had more Kevin Bieksa, you sort of developed him as a star. I think he has the potential to be that. Then all of a sudden you're injecting some personality. Like Paul Bissonnette isn't for everybody, but man, he's entertaining. He's incredibly entertaining, and he's outspoken. I wish he kind of hadn't have played that whole "I'm a Leaf fan" thing, because I think that took away some of his credibility. But the dude has.
I loved it.
Yeah, well, it's fun. Right?
Well, look, I don't.
It is. It's entertaining. It's a shtick. It
is, and I think I don't have a problem with it so long as you don't let it actually taint the way you observe the game. Fair. And to the large majority, I don't care about him wearing on his sleeve that he's Leaf fan, as long as his analysis is fair and unbiased, which generally I think it is. He's fair with it. I mean, like go back in time, like Grapes, like Don Cherry, who's a key part of this conversation and the history of the program, whether you like him or don't.
They have never replaced him.
He was always very, out there and abrasive almost at times, that he was a huge Bruins fan. He wanted the Bruins to win, but he was very, he was critical of them when he needed to be, and he was generally fair with it. And that's another thing too, where I think Bieksa, when I read your piece, Rob, which is available online, by the way, go check it out on the Toronto Sun. It's a great piece. Bieksa factors in heavily into that conversation of where is the Don Cherry replacement, the guy who had a little bit of fire in his words and could bring a little bit of heat, which he does, but we don't get enough of it, like you said, because of all the cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think, he would be he seems to me to be quite a bright guy. and properly produced and nurtured, he could be a star. And I think he's bright enough to do it. It's just a matter of letting him, giving him the forum to do it. Honestly, I don't even know who would watch intermissions anymore. I mean, if you're a hardcore hockey fan, you might want to catch the second I'm talking about the regular season. You'd want to catch the second intermission because Elliot Friedman always has good news.
He's awesome.
And he's on point with all that. He's probably I'd say he is the best, certainly one of the best, if not the best insider in the sport right now.
Yeah.
But that first intermission, it's unwatchable. And when poor old Ron gets lost in his puns and the inside jokes, like that's the stuff that drives me crazy. When they're all laughing at Ron's jokes because they're the only ones that know the punchline. It's a little bit much for 2 million viewers across the country.
And they've gone from having the star of all stars at the time when he was the king, Don Cherry, and you were at a game and like the media would be huddled around the TV watching the intermissions. It's gone from that, a one-on-one, 2 guys, to like 8 guys, and they've never replaced Don. I think at one point they thought maybe Brian Burke was the guy. He wasn't the guy. Bieksa, is he the guy? He's not the guy, but he's good in his role.
Right.
They've never really replaced the Don and Ron show, and that's that intermission where people, even if the game was crap, people wanted to watch them. So it's tough.
It's appointment viewing, literally appointment viewing. Now
absolutely, but
we'll see. And like for people, like, look, I understand that Don. You talk about Paul Bissonnette not being for everybody. I understand better than most that Don was not for everybody either. But the whole thing that made Coach's Corner appointment viewing for people, and a big reason why people that would constantly come up to me over the years and go, I hate Don Cherry, but they watch it. Absolutely. The whole reason why was because he would either say something that fired you up and you'd go, yeah, that's right, Don, or he'd piss you off and be like, can you believe what this guy's talking about? That's entertainment. It's a two-sided coin, and I really feel like they're missing. Here's my biggest, I read your piece and I agreed with everything in it, Longley. For me, if I could boil it down to one thing, I feel like the passion is gone. It feels passionless, and that's not a slight on the production team. And I feel like those people show up every night and they want to do the best show possible. It just feels like the way they're trying to accomplish that sucks the passion naturally and the fire out of what should be an extremely engaging, fun, and passionate broadcast. This is hockey we're talking about, and it feels like we're sitting down for a quiet Saturday night poker game.
That's a really good point, Ryan, because, I think the openings are outstanding. They do a really good job.
They're so good.
And then so that gets you all fired up to see what the panel is going to have to say. And then it's like, what? Now what? Here's a story about Don Cherry, too. I don't know if Clarkey will remember this, but when he was in his heyday, and we're probably going back a decade or so, every Saturday night, the Canadian press, the People's Wire Service in this country, had somebody assigned to Coach's Corner, like not in the arena. They'd be watching it at home, and they would send out a 300-word story every night on what Don Cherry said. And the reason they had somebody assigned to it was just in case he said something that was going to be outrageous or really fired up the fan base. But to the larger point, it was because people really wanted to hear what he had to say. Mm-hmm. The outrageous, the better, but they wanted to hear what he had to say. And I don't think there's really anybody in Canadian hockey broadcasting now that sort of fits that bill. No. I think Jeff O'Neill has the potential to be that way over at TSN.
He's the closest one. He's the closest one. Yeah.
It's and it's too bad because it makes for a blandness, and you nailed it, Ryan. The passion is missing.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about Don. 91 years old now, and just did his last podcast. I listen to the podcast. I'll be frank with you. I listen to it every week. 15 minutes with. You can sort of see why Tim Cherry gets all the names wrong, because he grew up with his dad getting all names wrong, and unfortunately Cindy passed away not long ago, but he sounded very frail. He's 91 years old, still has it. You can tell he still has it, but just sounded really frail, and he gave his final toodaloo on last weekend. So
I thought the telling one on his last one, Clarkey, was that I think almost every question that Tim asked him, Tim had to finish the answer. Like Don would sort of
Yeah.
give you 7 or 8 words,
He's 91.
but he's 91, right?
Yeah.
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 I'm sure he's still sharp for a 91-year-old, but
Yeah.
literally
He's 91. Yeah. He's 91.
Yeah, it's incredible, like an incredible broadcasting career. And I think that, I think that a lot of people do forget, for all his detractors, like I think that there are a lot of people, probably more that are my age and younger, that either don't remember or don't realize that Don was a very good coach and a pretty respected player in his day as well. Got into a couple NHL games here and there, but was a very good AHL player, multiple Calder Cup championships, and was a coach of the year with the Boston Bruins. And still to this day, I mean, if he walked into the Garden tomorrow, he would be revered by Boston fans. They consider Don one of their own. There's a street next to the arena named after him. There's a little street there. Like, they loved Grapes, and it wasn't just some guy, some blowhard like me that has nothing to fall back on in terms of being a pro. This guy was a very good player. He was tough too. He fought some of the nastiest guys in hockey history. The guy had to play for Eddie Shore, for God's sake, and he was a very good coach. So I think that a lot of people forget that sometimes, and I don't want that to be forgotten. The fact that he was a hockey guy.
And the other thing I just want to mention too, that I knew Don pretty good. I produced his Grapevine show.
You did.
The radio show with him and Brian Williams. And to be honest with you, he was the most easygoing guy when he did that radio show. I hear he's a little different when he's doing when he was doing Coach's Corner, but when he was doing the Grapevine, Brian was more of an intense guy to work with than Don was. Don just came in track pants and a t-shirt and sat down and shot the breeze. But the other thing I remember about Don was 1978. My family, we were in Florida for Blue Jay spring training, second year of the Blue Jays, and we were driving back home. We stayed in Atlanta one night, and I can't remember what team was playing the Flames that night, but we went to the Omni, and Boston. Oh, it was Boston. Boston was playing Atlanta, and after the game, Don was down by the glass talking to someone, and I went down and I got his autograph. So I was 12 years old at the time, and I got Don's autograph and told him I was from Toronto, and he was so nice to meet and just treated me like gold. So he was really nice.
And he was always true to himself, right? You could say that, as he became this big persona and personality, the restaurants and the dog and the Rock'em Sock'em videos and, the shtick that went with all that. But at his core, he was true to himself. Like, there was nothing phony about Don Cherry. He believed what he believed, and he was willing to say what he believed, and average Joe Canadian and average Joe Canadian hockey fan could 100% resonate with it. And that's why they hung on just about every word that he had to say, especially when he was in his heyday.
Yeah, 100%. Sure. And let's be frank here, like back in the CBC days, they tried to get rid of him like 10, 12 times, double digits. Like a new producer would come and go. Like, there's a joke in one of his books, stories, the Don Cherry stories books, that he was like, the producer at the start of the year would be like, this is probably your last go round. And then I'd meet a new guy next summer and a new one next summer, right? Like they tried to get rid of him forever and they just couldn't. And I understand, to get back to where Hockey Night in Canada is now, chatting with our friend Rob Longley here, I understand it's a daunting thing to replace somebody like that. Like, we're talking about, we're talking about replacing Dick Van Dyke here. We're talking, Johnny Carson. Like, that's what we're talking about here in terms of Canadian broadcasting. No one watched that show more. And I genuinely wonder, from both of you, and from Clarkey, you worked in that building for a long time. You know the ins and outs. You worked at Leafs TV. Like, I'm curious, both of you, and I'd put it to Longley first, because I know Clarkey's answer is going to be really long. What would you guys do? You're the producer right now. I come to you tomorrow and say, you're the new producer of Hockey Night in Canada. What changes would you make, Rob?
Well, first off, I would acknowledge that that Don Cherry is irreplaceable. You can't come along with the next Don Cherry because he doesn't exist,
Mm-hmm.
and the era where a personality like that could exist in television doesn't exist. So you have to find out what resonates with viewers. And Ryan, you made a good point. Bring back some of the passion. Find a personality that you think can really resonate with viewers, somebody who can have an opinion and be articulate enough with that opinion, but also be passionate and at times controversial about it, and be entertaining. We already talked about this. It's television. There's a responsibility to get information across because it's the nature of the program, but it's still entertainment, and it's hockey. It's 3 hours a night of entertaining television with a huge captive audience. Let's bring some of the passion and some of the entertainment value back to it. So you find a personality that you think you can work with. You scale back the number of voices that are on air, and then finally you take a real hard look and ask yourself if there are other alternatives to having Ron MacLean as the lead voice of Hockey Night in Canada, or to have Ron MacLean at least admit that maybe it's time that he changes his role a little bit to bring out the best out of some of the others around him, because he's not the star of the show, he's the host of the show. Maybe that's one of the traps that Hockey Night in Canada has fallen into a little bit in the post Don Cherry era. Clarkey, over to you.
Yeah.
I mean, Rob, you said a lot that I was going to say for sure. It's probably time for them to look at Ron and decide what's going to happen. They tried to do what he is doing when they brought George Stroumboulopoulos in a few years back, and that didn't work out too well.
That's a bold move.
Yeah, that was
It
when
was
they
a bold
did, like,
move, but it didn't work.
Hometown hockey thing.
Yeah,
and I just want to say for the
changed to
record,
Sunday nights. Yeah,
and I just want to say for the record, Clarkey, like before you continue,
For the
here,
record, okay.
I hate to interrupt you. I'm a gigantic George Stroumboulopoulos guy.
Oh, I like George. I know George really well.
And I think that they really did him dirty. I love George from when I was a little kid. I think he's one of the best broadcasters this country's ever produced, and I really disliked what they did to him. Go ahead.
So yeah, a lot of what you said. They got to pare back on the amount of people. I think you got to take a run at James Duthie. If his contract is coming up, you got to take a run. You got to throw money at this guy. Man. He's the best hockey guy out there right now.
The best host in the country, right?
For sure.
Oh,
absolutely,
man.
Absolutely. And you gotta go get the best guy. And if you're gonna be, how long was this contract? 12 years? I don't even know. I don't know. How long was
the new one? Yeah, and it's $11 billion too,
right. So that's the problem. They spent so much money on the rights. They seem, in my mind, to go cheap on some talent, and you can't do it. You cannot do it.
Well, here's what happened too, and it was actually a stroke of brilliance on TSN's part. Now we don't know what the future of TSN is going to be. There's rumors that Bell Media wants to get out of it, and maybe they try to sell it and all that kind of stuff. But when they lost the rights to the national rights to Sportsnet for the first time 10 years ago, they did a really smart thing. That rather than just crater and figure the world was ending, they said, "Hey, wait a minute. We're going to spend money and be the best at information.
100%.
To be the best at hockey information. We're going to make it entertainment. We're going to make a bigger star to James Duthie. We're going to hire guys like Pierre LeBrun and Darren Dreger. They took away from Sportsnet. They paid these guys money. They paid them a lot of money, right?
Yeah, absolutely, they did.
But it's a drop in the bucket compared to what it costs to have national rights.
No doubt.
So it was a winning formula for them. And I tell people this all the time, and it's especially during the Leaf series, the two rounds that the Leafs were in the playoffs this year. As soon as the game was over, I switched over to TSN because their panel was so good, and they had all the post game interviews anyway. The only one they would be whatever one Kyle Bukauskas got at ringside, but they would have all the scrums as quicker than Sportsnet, and they would they had infinitely better analysis. Cheryl Pounder, to me, is the best women's voice in hockey broadcasting right now. As I said earlier, I'm of the belief that O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, is a star in the making. For a guy who can be a little bit goofy and a little bit snarky, he can really break down a play and do it with concisely and do it with an opinion. And 100%. That to me is the star analyst. And then you've got Duthie, as you guys said. I mean, I think leaps and bounds the best in the craft in this country, and one of the best in North America.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then you pair it up with the fact that like Overdrive, like in terms of sports talk shows, I'm biased, and look, I like LaGreca and some of those guys down there. I like Cowherd's show. I like Rich Eisen. There's a lot of great shows down in the States. Like, just in my personal opinion, Overdrive is the best sports talk show in North America. Like, you pair up a guy like Brian Hayes, who they've tried to, and he'll be there on free agency day. Like, they've squeezed Hayes more into the TV spotlight too, which I think is a great idea in terms of radio and like, long form analysis shows. He's unbelievable too. Like, they have a cadre of talent there that really, right now, to me, I agree, Longley is unmatched.
And one way or another, if Duthie stays, Brian Hayes could be a target for Sportsnet. If Duthie goes, Brian Hayes could be a replacement for Duthie. No doubt.
Absolutely.
I would be surprised if guys like him, and even Odog, if he would listen, if they would, Rogers would approach him, would he listen? I'm sure. Why wouldn't he? Right. Even though, I mean, like, that is, you could argue that Overdrive is really the only franchise in Canadian sports radio anymore that's
no doubt
worth listening to, because there's other stuff that's worth listening to, but it's far and away the most talented and most popular sports franchise.
But you know as well as I do. Know as well as I do. If they threw money at Jeff O'Neill to work 1 day a week, he's taking that over, getting into the studio 5 days a week.
Yeah,
in a heartbeat.
He would be golfing so much. And speaking of that, Longley, if you're okay revealing how your day went, I know you were on the links. What went on? How did it go?
A whole bunch of pars, like 8 or 9 of them.
Wow. We like that?
Okay. And like 3 or 4 bogeys, and then 4 or 5 holes that we don't really want to talk about right now.
Okay, well, that's okay. Hey, 4 or 5 is better than 9 or 10, right? Okay,
it was golf. I don't get upset one way or the other anymore. It's just good to be out.
So I went golfing this past weekend with Ian Doig, and we're going to see some footage of that later in the show. But here's what Ian brought to my house on Saturday when he showed up. He brought a copy of the Toronto Sun. And I'm like, oh, they still make the Toronto Sun? Like a hard copy. I was kidding. I hadn't seen one in probably 7 years living out here. I don't see them in the stores. But it was like walking down memory lane. Look, there's Rob Longley's article. Frank Zick's still around.
Zick is still around. Zick's one of the few that's been around longer than me. Zick started there in like 85, I think.
Yeah, Zick's been there forever.
Yeah.
So it was sort of neat reading the articles and seeing all the guys I used to hang out with, and there's the Sunshine Girl on the back page too, eh? Still Sunshine Girl is still there too.
Oh yeah, and
we don't need to get into the Sunshine Girls.
No, I think they're like retro Sunshine Girls now, though.
I don't think they do. I don't think they shoot them anymore.
No. That's what I mean. It looked like they were the retro girls. Anyway.
Yeah, they're ones that sort of like
they're still there though. Anyway, it was neat to look at it.
Well, speaking of retro, and I mean by retro, I'm talking 2015, 2016. Are these Blue Jays legit as you look back at them there? Like
there's Kirk with another hit.
Excited? I'm trying to convince what a fire hydrant that guy is, eh?
Sure.
He's spraying the ball all over the place. I'm trying to get Clarkey excited about these Jays.
We're going to the Cubs game in August.
Is it legit? Yes, we want to go see my Cubs in August. Is this legit? Should Toronto be excited?
Give me a 10-word definition of legit first, and then we'll talk.
Can they contend?
Can they actually be competitive, make the playoffs, and win playoff games?
Yes.
Okay.
They can.
Wow. We changed our tune, from the beginning of the year.
It's easy, though. It's so easy to make the playoffs in the American League in modern-day Major League Baseball now.
But let me ask this, and Ryan brought it up last week. Have they made internal improvements?
Well, they're collaborating to make sure that they can make some internal improvements. So we don't know yet. Scherzer looked pretty good tonight, and he could be key to hold this whole thing. But the other thing and this is why it's so difficult getting a handle on this team, is tomorrow he could wake up and his thumb will be like
correct
again, and he's done.
And it will be, or something else.
Yeah. So the team is flawed, right? It's like I don't know how they got to this point with a 3-man rotation, which is essentially what they've been doing since week 2 of the season.
Well, their
But it
bullpen
comes
is
with-
good.
Yeah, but their bullpen was good. Their bullpen is showing some cracks right now, and
Yes.
and they're getting beat up, and that's the worry. Not so much that they go through some ups and downs. That happens to every bullpen in a 162 game season. But when you're overused, like this bullpen has been, then you start to see the cracks. Like, what's going to happen when Jimmy Garcia comes back? Like, he was so key to what they were doing in the first month and a half of the season, but they used him so much that he, I won't say blew out his shoulder, but he certainly injured it enough to be sent to the injured list. And he's working his way back, but the guy's like 36 or 37 now or whatever he is. And what's he going to be like for the second half of the season? Last year he was on the IL twice, right? Chad Green looks like he's cooked. I think Jeff Hoffman will get things figured out, but there's just so many ups and downs in the season, and pitching is gonna carry you farther than anything. But here's one thing I will say. If you look at their three biggest offseason acquisitions, two of them essentially haven't played yet. Max Scherzer's back tonight, so let's see what he's got. If he can be a force on that rotation. And everybody told me who watched him, and I watched him in spring training myself. Everyone said that was the Max Scherzer of old. It wasn't an old Max Scherzer. It was a guy who wins you Cy Youngs. That's how good he looked. So if you get him back, and there's this other guy, I don't know if you've heard of him. His name is Anthony Santander.
Sounds familiar.
I think he hit 48 home runs last year.
Yeah.
He was in the Blue Jays lineup for about a month, but he was invisible because he did next to nothing. And now he's been on the injured list for about a month too. So, I mean, are you ever going to get any production from him? Maybe. But so here's the negative thing for Jays fans who expect Anthony Santander to magically lift this offense in the second half. And everybody talks about how he's a slow starter, as if that's some sort of an excuse, and you don't have to worry about him until his second month of the season. Well, he's been out so long that he's going to be starting the season all over again. So whenever he does come back, does that mean he's not going to be able to produce until September 1st? Are we not going to get Anthony Santander production until Labor Day? Who knows, man? I mean, they've been pretty fortunate. Some of what they've done has been smoke and mirrors. Credit to guys like Addison Barger, who could be legit. He has shown signs of legit power. Ernie Clement, who's a utility guy and is hitting 300 now, and just seems to be getting base hit after base hit everywhere he goes. Is that sustainable? I mean, at some point you have to have the top of the order carry the freight. It can't be all bottom of the order. So we shall see. They're comfortably in a wild card spot now. As you guys mentioned off the very top, they're 2.5 games behind the Yankees for first place in the American League East. And
craziness.
Yeah, and there's a 4-game series. The Yankees are in town for 4 starting on Monday, including a Canada belt, which is always a big festive affair at the Rogers Center. So the Yankees, as you guys said, aren't playing that well. I mean, if we record this like 10 days from now, could the Blue Jays be in first place? I suppose it's possible, but I wouldn't be wagering on it. Let's just say.
No, but the fact that we're even talking about it being a remote possibility, let alone a fairly decent one, is encouraging in and of itself based on what we were saying in March.
Yeah, the narrative has fairly significantly since then.
I just really would like them to go and get some help, because it's one thing, when we had Keegan Matheson on, when his book came out, one thing we were talking about with him was generally the offseason moves and tweaks that this front office have made have generally worked out. And I brought up to him the thing that's frustrated me about the front office is that they don't make the big swing during the season to patch holes that they're seeing. So I wonder, can they go out and buy low on a really good talent like Luis Robert? I think the White Sox would love to be rid of him, especially with his contract coming up. Could they go and do that and reignite his bat? One of the most exciting young players his first couple years, and he just looks lost out there in White Sox land where everyone looks lost. I would love to see them go and get Sandy Alcantara out of Miami, man. My God, could you imagine adding Sandy Alcantara to this rotation?
I mean,
the guy throws 100.
I think we say this just about every year that, this is the most important trade deadline of of Ross Atkins' career as general manager.
Yeah.
But in this case, there probably is some truth to it, especially as long as they're still in the hunt 5 weeks from now when the deadline arrives, because they can't be sellers now. Not when you spend $5 million.
No.
You got to be some form of buyer, and I don't think you can be just a bit buyer. I think you have to be an aggressive buyer. This is the time where you try to do what Anthopoulos did in 2015. Obviously not easy to do, but get an impact bat, get an impact starter, and get some depth for the bullpen. It's going to cost you to do it, but here's the other thing about all that. We've talked a lot this year about how weak the American League is overall. And as we're sitting here today talking about the Jays contending, despite it really has been a mediocre season, having a shot at the division, isn't this the kind of year where all in, or as close as you can get to all in, is should be the way to go? I mean, to me, it's almost a no-brainer. You're losing Bassett next year anyway. You're going to be losing Bo Bichette next year. I mean, this is the time. This is the time to not just fill holes, not just to add depth pieces, but to add serious impact pieces and make a fun run at this. Fans are still going to the place, Clarkey.
I know they are.
30,000.
They're doing it.
It's like
They're doing it.
Yep. Well,
fan base is ready for this, right?
They're proving me wrong
something.
right now. Those guys.
Yep. They're in third gear right now, and Ross and company could floor it and get them into fifth, sixth gear
For sure.
with some real.
I
nice
still agree with Rob though. It's smoke and mirrors and a lot of flaws.
Well, sometimes smoke and mirrors can guide you somewhere, man, when everyone else is smoke and mirrors too. I can say the same thing of just about every American League team.
You know me, you guys. I'm a glass half full guy. So let's go.
Yeah.
So it's been smoke and mirrors to this point, but yeah, maybe you do get Anthony Santander back, and maybe Scherzer is Cy Young form, and maybe Jeff Hoffman does figure it out, and maybe Vlad Guerrero Jr. goes on a massive tear, like the Sportsnet broadcasters tell us every night is just around the corner. Maybe all these things start to happen because in almost every measure, most of the serious measurable ways, this team is underachieved, and yet they're into this point. So if they ever start achieving, who knows? Let's go glass half full.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
I like that a lot. Glass half full, and he's the guy that we like to gather around the table with our half full glasses and talk about the Jays. And hey, some broadcasting too. Rob Longley of the Toronto Sun at Longley Sun Sport. Please follow him. You can find all of his great work there online.
Media
Longley,
critic,
you're one of the best, brother. Media
Airwaves,
critic, ladies and gentlemen. Long time media critic. He's not new at this, okay?
Airwaves
Longley.
is back.
Airwaves is back. Let's go.
I'll tell you one more story about Airwaves and Clarkey.
Yeah,
please.
Like back in the day when I first started doing it, like decades ago, I did two a week. One was Thursday for Friday, which was just sort of issues and looking ahead at what was going to be on the weekend and all that. And then I did a real TV critic type column Sunday for Monday. So there would be the odd weekend, and it actually happened more often than you would expect. I'd watch all kinds of television all weekend long, and it'd be like 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, and I had to start typing, and it's like, I haven't seen anything good or bad on television all weekend. What am I going to write about?
Right. Yeah.
It's not the easiest job.
It's
and the
too
other
mediocre. No, it's not.
You got to be careful about I learned this lesson in early days. You can't take cheap shots at people too, because it's just you lose any credibility, and there's no point in it, right? I mean, you can be critical, but just try to be as fair as you can. And when I did it back then, and Clarkey was a guy that would help me out at times, but I had people like some big names, guys that went on to be big names in the industry that were very helpful. Like I could phone them up and say, like people that actually produce stuff, I could phone them up and say, listen, I saw this over on X network. I know it wasn't your network, but was it as bad as I thought it was? And they would be honest with me. They'd say, no, that wasn't bad at all. It was just a little glitch in the truck. You probably don't want to mention that. But if I said it about their network, they would admit, yeah, we effed up there, right? They would. So it was like, anyway, it was not the easiest thing to do, but it was pretty well read, and the stuff now people have a real hunger for it. So we're going to see where it goes. Like right now, we're just kind of rolling it out as almost like a test drive and see. But the response over for the Hockey Night stuff has been pretty positive. A lot more people read that than they read the Blue Jays stuff, which is pretty. Right?
Yeah, I love it.
Hey,
I love it. Keep it going.
We're a big
All right,
hockey
boys.
country, man. They want it, and he's one of the best at doing it. Find all of his content. Toronto Sun, Rob Longley, one of the best. Thanks for doing this, buddy.
Anytime, guys. We'll catch up soon.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, as Clarkey promised, him and our friend Ian Doig hit the course recently, and we want to see what went on. We're going to be looking for dirty tricks. We're going to be looking for bad drops. We're going to be looking for mulligans, breakfast balls. We're going to be keeping an eye on what Clarkey was up to, because we know Doigie's a man of integrity. We're going to be keeping a close eye on what Clarkey was up to next here on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Thanks to our buddy Rob Longley of the Toronto Sun. Follow him at Longley Sun Sport for all of your, of course, Blue Jays news.
Right.
Big on the Blue Jays beat, and your
They're
Canadian broadcasting
proving me wrong
opinions.
right now. I'm
They're
admitting it.
proving you-
I'm admitting it. They're proving me wrong. They're playing well. They are in a spot to contend.
There's a lot of baseball left, though, and they got to keep
There
this
is.
up. And
There
they
is.
do need to make improvements. They do need to make improvements, and Ross cannot sit on his hands. Let's see some action here. God,
Absolutely.
to have Sandy Alcantara. Come on.
Let's see what
and
happens.
maybe that's a pipe dream, but people thought that back in the day when they went out and got David Price. That's literally the comparable here. Like Sandy
There you go.
Alcantara is
There you
on
go.
that type of level.
Okay, let's get them. Let's go.
Out of Florida. Let's go.
Come on.
Yeah, throwing that 99
Shotguns.
mile an hour turbo sinker.
Let's go.
Come on, dude. I love Sandy Alcantara, if you can't tell. Listen,
Yeah.
talking about competition and competing, you and our friend Ian Doig of the Ian Doig Golf Academy, look it up. You want to improve your golf game, Ian Doig will help you do it.
Yeah.
And I wonder what occurred this past weekend. You two got together for not one, but 2 days of golf.
Well, I got some news.
Tell
for
us
you.
where you played
I got
and
some
tell us
news.
what happened.
Got
You
some news even to that.
Uh-oh.
So Doigie came down Saturday.
Yes.
And our 2-day golf event actually turned into 3.
Wow, you almost played a full
But
tournament?
Opening day was a little different. So we had dinner in Grand Bend. And Adam, you can roll it in. We had dinner in Grand Bend. And as we're walking back, we discover a mini putt course in Grand Bend.
Oh, no.
So Doigie and I decided to hit the mini putt course. And it was a back and forth seesaw battle. Look at this shot Doigie had to make. Now, Ian didn't get his camera out. So most of this viz is me shooting Ian at the mini putt. What do you think the final score was between Ian and Clarkey at the mini putt? Not final score, but who do you think won?
So I, along with most of our viewers, would probably be compelled to say Ian Doig. But here's what I'll say, though. We've heard Doigie on this program in previous years talk about how back and forth his putting can be at times. So I'm actually going to throw a little bit of faith your way. You're my guy. Okay. Did you win?
Well, this particular hole, like he sent it over, like there's a fence there at the back, it bounces out. Like it's tricky. It's not just putting, right? And look at him, he's not happy with what's going on. But we get down to the last hole. Okay, so the 18th hole.
And were you tied?
We were tied.
Oh my God.
Going to the 18th hole. The 18th hole is a little different. So basically you get it up this ramp, and if you get it in the hole, it's a 1. If it falls down and disappears, it's a 2. Look at Ian's putt. It didn't make it up the ramp.
Oh no. He didn't weight it properly.
So he didn't weight it properly. So now he has to hit this into the hole for a 2, and he did it. So he got his 2. So now I have to just at least get it up the ramp. If I get it up the ramp, we tie. If I get it in the hole, we win. Well, I step up in my perfect form. I'm the lefty, of course.
I don't like how you're setting this up, bud.
You don't like how I'm setting up? And
You're
there it goes
making me
up,
nervous.
and I missed. Just lipped out for the 2. So we tied. We tied.
Well, you had to
There's
do a
the
sudden death.
scorecard right there. No, you lose the ball. The ball disappears into the thing, and you can't get another ball. So
no,
it
you
ended
need
in
to
a
go.
tie.
You have to go to the front. I've had this happen to me before
Have you?
at Sauble Beach when I think they still have a mini putt course there. Shout out Sauble Beach mini putt.
Yeah.
If you tie, you have to go to the front desk and request a ball and play one over.
Well, we're gonna do that next time then, because we ended in a tie. It's like kissing your sister. You ended in a tie.
Okay.
And that was the end of it. So then
You are so old, dude. What
next
what
day-
a phrase to throw
So
out.
the next day we hit the links, the real links. And I
Here we
think
go.
you remember Sunday how hot it was.
Oh my God, it was
So
obscene.
we teed
all
off.
week.
We teed off at 4:30 Sunday afternoon. So it wasn't too terribly hot at that point. It was down to about 43 with the Humidex. And we
Jesus.
played a beautiful golf course, as you can see. St. Thomas Golf and Country Club, a private
Yeah,
course.
that's a beauty.
Ian got some access. And we played, and I played terribly. Ian didn't putt great. He he
But he
carried
did
on
everything else
his
great.
mini putt. Ian shot a 75. I shot considerably higher. No doubt about that. But
Tell us what you shot. Just give us the
you know what?
number.
It was over 100 for sure. I don't even know, to be honest with you. I had some DNFs in there too because I just got frustrated. My game is awful
Okay.
right now. Awful. Like it was
All right.
terrible.
Okay.
However, the next day at Green Hills, first par 3, look what Clarkey does. There's the ball mark right there. Look at the ball right there. That's my tee shot on a par 3. And
It's pretty good.
I two putted that for my par.
Disappointing.
I
Disappointed.
know.
I'm
But
not
I
happy
played
with this.
way better. I played
Yeah.
way better on the second day. Ian
Yep.
gave me some pointers on round 1, and I put those into effect on round 2 at Green Hills, which is just on the west side of London. And
Yes. What'd you shoot?
well, to be honest with you, we teed off at 12:30 on Monday afternoon.
That's a tough
Do you
time
know
to
how
be out
hot
there.
it was at 12:30 Monday afternoon?
Did you call it after the front 9?
So we played, and no one was in front of us. Boom, boom, boom. We played. We never waited up until the 13th hole, and then all of
Okay.
a sudden, boom, we waited. And I said to Ian, I'm not sitting out here waiting much longer. And then we got to the next hole. There's 2 groups on it, and I'm like, we're out of here. So off we went. But it was just too hot. It was 45 degrees.
Dude,
So
it
we
was
did pack
disgusting.
it in. But I had a lot of fun with our buddy Doigy, and my golf game got better, and that's what I wanted to accomplish. So a nice couple of rounds with Ian on the
Hey.
golf course. Yeah,
Day-to-day improvement.
that's
And
what I'm
that's why
looking for.
that's why you go see our friend Ian
That's
Doig. Ian Doig
correct.
Golf Academy.
Yeah, he
works
gives me a
with
lot
you.
of stuff, right? He gives me. It's like, oh boy. But
Yeah.
there was 2 things that finally clicked, and he's like, Clarkey, I've been telling you this for 5 years, but it finally clicked. So anyway,
Yeah.
and that. So there you go. It helped. Hopefully, I can carry it on. The key is, Ryan, you gotta play. You gotta practice, because
Yeah,
I
you
can't
have to-
expect in 5 weeks if I just hit the links again, I'm going to be good, because I'm not. Anyway, so there you go. How
Yeah,
much
you
time we
gotta
got
go-
left in this show?
We got a few minutes
What's a
left
few?
here. Yeah,
How long is a few?
we got like 10 minutes.
Okay.
We got
So
like
where are we
10
going
minutes.
next?
Well, we got 10
Evander
minutes for
Kane
sure.
traded.
Yeah,
Free
Evander
agency's coming up.
Kane. Free agency's coming, man. A lot of chatter around your favorite hockey player of all time, Fancy Pants. There's a lot of chatter about Mitchell Marner.
Yep. Vegas.
A lot of chatter. Vegas,
Yep.
San Jose, Columbus now, apparently. I saw Chris Johnson.
Go to Columbus. Go ahead.
I saw that the rumors are that they could be, I heard LA's in the mix, of course. Carolina will be in the mix. I heard even Dallas is, which I don't know how they'll pull that off. They'd have to move a lot of money.
No, trade for Rantanen.
But I'll tell you what though. Apparently Columbus is shoving their chips to the front of the pile here, and
Is
it
his
could be
number
upwards
going to
of
be
14 and a
That's what I was
half
gonna ask.
million.
14.5?
Columbus is allegedly willing to set him up next to Adam Fantilli for the next 7 years at 14 and a half sheets.
Wow.
Boy.
Trevor Zegras traded. This guy's stock has dropped a lot.
Well, look at what he was traded for. I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Ryan Poehling, but I mean, Ryan Poehling was a better college player than he has been a pro so far. You know, God bless the kid. But yeah, I mean, talk about selling low. I think that ultimately that had a lot to do with them hiring Quenneville, and Quenneville probably had some input on that, saying, look, I don't think I can really work with this guy. And I think that Pat Verbeek, you know, people forget the little ball of hate. He's the GM down there. I think he's the president too. And I think that he was kind of over the shenanigans. Just, okay, yeah, you score 3 nice Michigan goals a year, but where's everything else?
That's it.
There's serious
exactly.
concerns.
I agree. There's
There's serious concerns about his, like, overall
As there should be.
hockey acumen.
Yeah.
Like, the skill, the hands, all of that, like, the physical skill attributes are in abundance. I mean, watch this guy in the shootout and you're like, whoa, like there's not a lot of guys that can do that. It's just there's some serious concern that he's going to have an opportunity to answer. And keep in mind, he's 24.
Yeah.
But there's serious concerns about his hockey IQ. And, well, you're going to have some pretty talented young players in Philadelphia. That Michkov kid, I don't know if you know, he's pretty good.
Yep. New coach.
Luchenko. Hello. Send him back to Guelph, though. But, yeah, new coach. Tockett's got another talented young center with a little bit of, you know, I don't want to call it a personality issue, but certainly some on-ice deficiencies, we'll call it, to work with. Just getting out of that situation with Pettersson and Miller and all that. Yeah. There's another big storyline, too. Like, are the Canucks going to try and trade Elias Pettersson? They have until July 1st to do it, and then the no move kicks in. So,
Yeah.
I personally don't think they should. I think he's too good, and you can't give up on a guy like that. But geez, $11.6 million, like he can't have a year like he did last year. Like he's got to have 90 points next year, man. You know.
So let me ask you this:
I don't know.
Did the Leafs land a fish on Tuesday? A big fish? Not their own. I'm talking about like a Marchand or someone like that. Bennett, Ekblad.
Probably. I mean, they have the cap space.
They do.
Like they have the cap space.
Yeah.
When you look at the overall free agency class, though, it's not really like headlined by a bunch of like huge impact guys.
And that's, I think, the problem. There's going to be mediocre guys getting rich because teams are going to pay them.
There will be. I'm more interested to see what kind of trades go on. We've already seen some. The draft always has plenty of deals.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying this. I think my team could potentially be very active.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I do think that they will sign one of those guys, although it's starting to sound like Sam Bennett is inching ever closer to just re-signing and staying.
Well, he said he's re-signing, so we'll see if he does.
But Marchand, if the Leafs could get Marchand on a somewhat cozy looking three,
and I don't think
I guess maybe $4
$8 million bucks.
It could be
$8 million.
I think it would be an interesting maneuver, and it would certainly change some DNA.
Well, we'll see what happens. Let's take a break. Let's take one break, and we got a little special ending to the show.
We got a little announcement here. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back right here on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, wrapping up another week here. Thanks to our buddy Rob Longley of the Toronto Sun. Look, myself, Clarkey, and we've got producer Adam up here. We've got some sad news, but we've got some good news too. The good news is the show will continue. The show is continuing. We're going to be keeping it going. You're still going to be able to find it on our YouTube channel. You're going to be able to still follow us on social media at Instigating Pod. Find it on all your favorite podcast apps, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. Show's not going anywhere, but unfortunately, this is the last show that we are doing with our friends at Wightman TV. It's a sad day. We learned recently that our friend producer Adam here is, taking on a new position at work. He's just not going to be able to have the time to be able to be with us and produce the show. And
can't believe
so
that.
we're going to be. Yeah, it's
no time for our
tough.
show.
It's going to be
wasn't my
tough.
decision.
It wasn't his decision.
Careful, Adam.
Yeah.
When we found that out, though, we were obviously a little sad. And in the near future, Clarkey and I are going to take a little bit of time off. Not a long time. We're actually probably going to pop on here in early July with a recap of some free agent frenzy stuff in hockey. Clarkey and I will pop on here, and we'll have some news for you then about what the future of the show looks like on, the TV side of things. But before that, we just want to say thanks so much to our friends at Wightman, particularly producer Adam, who's been with us every week, every step of the way, making us look good, making us sound good. Dude, it's been such a pleasure to do this with you. You actually produced our old show way back in the day at CKNX, MWO Sports.
How long has it been,
that show?
Adam?
Oh, Adam, you've been producing shows for us. It's got to be 9 years.
At least. I mean, I think it goes back to 2016 or 17.
This is definitely the longest running show in Midwestern Ontario.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I would agree.
And producer Adam is
probably the only one.
Well, and producer Adam has been at the heart of that.
He has.
And,
he's been around. He's come out to events and hockey and golf. He's been there for us, and he's been great. So we definitely wanted to bring you on today and say thank you. And we're going to, I'd love to say something to make you cry, but I don't know where I could go to do that because it's got to be a sad moment for you to be leaving this show.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I'm going to miss you guys, of course. Come on.
Well,
what's your favorite moment of the show, Adam? Do you have one?
Oh, I would. You were just mentioning. You prompted me when you were talking about going out to events, and definitely having that one we had at the golf course that Doig brought us to. We had Nelson on. Yeah, that was a really cool show. We got Ryan to actually do some golfing. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you liked my outfit. You told me that day, too.
I did. Your outfit was fantastic.
I told Ian I was going to wear it on Sunday. I said I'm going to get my outfit on that I wore on the show. And he's like, "If you do that, we are not going to this golf course."
Ian,
and I didn't. I didn't. Don't worry.
That's good, man.
One of my fondest memories was, I think, during COVID. Yes, it was definitely during COVID. When the Leafs were eliminated, Adam and his lovely wife, Jen, sent me a cherry pie.
Yep.
They did.
They got me a cherry pie, and I was so appreciative of that cherry pie. And I'll never forget the moment because I left it in the box, and I just cut the pieces, right? And then I lifted it up when I was done. And underneath it, written on the box, was "Go Habs, Go."
Yep.
And I had this thing in my house for like a week because by myself, I was just eating a piece a day. But
do you remember when we dropped that off? You were like, "Do you want to come in for a visit?" And I was like, "No, not really." Knowing what was down below the whole time.
Yeah.
He knew what he had left.
Oh, yeah.
He knew what he had left. And it was
didn't
COVID,
want to be there.
I remember because I did a little TikTok and I threw my mask over it at the end.
Yeah, I remember that.
So that was one of my fondest memories of dealing with Adam. But yeah, it's been good.
Yeah,
it's been fun. Yeah,
absolutely, man, dude. No, it's been a really fun journey. I mean, it's been
Adam. Say something, or Ryan, say something.
This is the fourth season.
Say something.
I can't say something.
Sentimental.
To make him cry. Well, I am sentimental. No, it's been the best, man. This is the fourth season of this show, and we're the two knuckleheads that are on here yelling at each other all the time. But
fourth season.
Yeah,
this fourth season, dude, and that's a lot of time commitment to sit there and listen to us two boneheads yell and scream about sports. So seriously, you know, we really appreciate it, and it's sad, but it's not like we're never going to see each other.
No.
Like we got each other's numbers. Like
Exactly.
we're not cutting Adam out of our lives or anything.
Yeah,
but
I just deleted him from our Instigating WhatsApp
you didn't.
group.
What?
I'm kidding.
But we're gonna get together soon. We're gonna have a little barbecue. It's gonna be fun. And we just wanted to say thanks to Wightman for being so good to us, and thanks producer Adam for being the very best, dude. You are the Nathan McKinnon of producers.
Wow,
That might
thank
make
you.
him cry right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is intense. I like that. Nathan McKinnon.
If that doesn't do it, well, seriously, dude, thanks so much, and thanks to all the viewers on Wightman. The show's not stopping.
No, you can still
brief
watch
break.
us on YouTube, and
will be
exciting
back
news
soon.
coming up.
We'll be back soon with exciting news about the future of the show on the TV side, but the podcast not going anywhere, YouTube not going anywhere. We'll have some news for you soon. So for the final time, you can watch this final show on Friday at 8, Sunday at 9 with our friends on Wightman TV. That's channel 6 for our Wightman subscribers. You can find the podcast on all your favorite podcast apps, and you'll still be able to. You can still follow us on @InstigatingPod on social media, and we'll have news for you very soon about the future of the show. I'm Ryan Drury. That is Chris Clark. That is producer Adam. Thank you so much, Wightman TV, and we'll see you down the road.
I think I see a tear.
Go Avs, go.